So there are all kinds of loans and all kinds of lenders, and you want to make sure you find the right tool and the right tool for right circumstances. And today we have a chance to talk to Mark Maimon about bridge loans, which really fits certain niches to help you get from point A to point B to point C using the B bridge loan in the middle to get there. So Mark, thanks for taking some time with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Bill, for having me.
Now, real quick, though, in the background, I see a map of New York City. You from New York, or what's the connection?
Yeah, so I lived in New York for a long time. That's where I started my career, but my New York sign is hanging in my home office in LA.
Oh, okay, good. And where in
Yeah.
New York do you live?
We were all over the place, but mostly in Manhattan.
Very nice. Okay, he says with a big smile, which is really New York.
Yeah.
When New Yorkers say New York, they mean Manhattan. So
Yeah.
let's talk. So let's talk about bridge loans. First off, let's talk about the total genre. What is a bridge loan?
Sure. So a bridge loan is a loan product that allows people to purchase a home before they've sold their current one. So logistically, if you try to sell first or you try to sell simultaneously, very difficult to get a seller to accept an offer that's
Right.
contingent upon selling, even in a market that isn't at its peak.
Right.
It's just not a strong selling point.
Right.
So the idea is to be able to pull the equity out of your current home so that you have the funds for the down payment to be able to close on the new purchase without having to sell first and move into temporary housing or whatever you might have to do if you were to sell first.
So I see a couple scenarios in my business that this comes up. Number one is, as you described, what I call a retail move up or move down or move out of state, where they have a house, they want to buy a house, and to coordinate the simultaneous sale can be challenging, right?
Yes.
So how do you handle that? How do you handle the move out? When you close escrow, usually you have to move out in a day or two. If you have a big house, it's going to take time. So the bridge loan lets you close on the new home, but you lean on the old home. So you have a house that's maybe worth $1 million. You're selling it for $1 million. You have maybe 800,000 in equity. So you can take some of that and put that as a down payment on the new house. Is that how that works?
Exactly.
Is most commonly the bridge loan the entire financing of the purchase, or is it a partial?
Well, there's a lot of different incarnations of it, and we have lots of different products that fill different needs. So,
Right.
for example, a client who has enough income to support both properties, including the bridge product, can probably do a traditional loan on their purchase and not need to do conventional, bridge financing per se. They might just get a larger mortgage than they would have otherwise because they don't have all of the proceeds from selling quite yet.
Right.
And then the idea would be to pay down that loan once they've sold and free up the rest of the money.
Got it.
And there are some bridge loans that will cross-collateralize both properties together. Some can be in second lien position, some need to be in first lien position. So there's a lot of different variations, and our goal is to try to find the right solution that is most cost-effective for each client's profile.
Got it. So that's one scenario. Another scenario I see is on fix and flips. Somebody needs cash to move quickly. They're buying a property. Their goal is to fix it up and sell it within a shorter time period, 30 days to 90 days, or fix it up and refinance it and keep it as a buy and hold, putting in a better tenant situation, upgrade property, get a better rent. So if you're fix and flipping it, that's just a hard money loan. But if you're going to try to keep the property, you can't get the final financing because the property is not in condition. So can people use a bridge loan maybe to buy the property and fix it up and then come back and refinance later? Is that something that you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do both fix and flip and bridge financing, and depending on the, again, profile of the client, the experience level with other flips, that will kind of dictate which of those angles might be the right fit for them.
Got it.
But we do both. And then I would just to add to what you were saying, another consideration with bridge financing is also looking at homes that may need some updating. So we work a lot with the senior community as well. And what happens is often a senior may have been in their home for 10, 20, 30 years, and they've accumulated a lot of stuff. So it just, for whatever reason, the home just isn't in tip-top shape to be able to sell it quite yet for top dollar.
Right.
So sometimes the bridge loan can be both funding for a down payment, but also for renovation costs or just cleanup, painting, decluttering, yard work, whatever it needs to be able to sell that property for top dollar after the person has vacated. Because I'm sure you deal with this on your side of the business, probably easier to sell a home when no one's living in it than
Right.
if you've got, a family of 6 and a dog and all these other things that are difficult I've been in this situation before myself, difficult to clean up a home to the point where you want to do showings when you've got a family and a pet and, whatever else.
Right.
So,
Then there was just me and my wife before we had our first child, and that's challenging enough, let alone 6 kids. Well, life with 6 kids is a whole nother level anyhow. And a dog. That's a whole nother level. So
that's an extreme example. I do not have 6 children, for the record. I stopped at 2, but I do have a dog as well.
What I've learned, anybody who has 6 kids can deal with about anything. I mean, if you can handle 6 kids, really, you can handle an invasion from a horde of barbarians, probably, because you got to get kids ready for school.
Yeah. I
so
think
another
that's daily life is being bombarded by barbarians.
So a third example scenario that I can think of is 1031 exchanges where they're selling an investment property. They want to buy a property. Can they use a bridge loan to move the equity, or do they have to sell the property to be able to move the equity tax-free or tax-deferred?
So if you're trying to do a reverse 1031 exchange, which for those who may not know what that is, basically where you're purchasing the new property before you've sold the old one. A bridge loan can be a great solution for that. And the main benefit of doing it that way, as opposed to the opposite, which is where you sell first and then identify a new property to buy, is that the identification window for a 1031 exchange is only 45 days. So from the time, if you sell first,
Right.
You have 45 days to, on paper, identify exactly what property you're buying. So 45 days is not a lot of time to find the right property that has the right cash flow and condition and all these things, and also get to the point of your loan process if you're taking a loan or your inspections to be able to sign off and say, okay, yeah, this is really a property I want to buy.
Right.
So that takes a couple weeks. Your identification window is really only 30 days, so that you have that extra couple weeks to get through inspections or whatever else you need to do. So by doing a bridge loan, you can do it in the reverse order, where you purchase the new property first, you pull the equity out of the investment that you already own, and then your identification 45-day window doesn't apply anymore because you've already identified the property. And now you've got your 6 months to sell the relinquished property and put that money toward the mortgage. So as an investor, it opens up your world well beyond that 45-day identification window to do that reverse exchange.
Well, and that's the number one complaint about reverse mortgages. And I heard really one of the great, one of my mentors in real estate investing, Grant Cardone, say he doesn't do 1031s for the reason that the identification period is so difficult. And my experience as a broker confirms that, meaning the customer will identify 3 properties, and what I find is one they love, one they're okay with, and one they need a third, and the one they love isn't available, and the second one they decide they don't want. Now they're stuck with a third property, and investors, I think, make money on the purchase, not just on the sale. And so the 1031 kind of eliminates the power of a buyer, versus what you're talking about is really unlocking the power of a buyer to transfer that. How long do they have? If you buy the next property, is that to be the same calendar year, or how does that work, the reverse 1031?
Yeah, so on a reverse 1031, you have the full 6-month window, or 180 days, to be able to identify and close on the sale of the other property.
Right.
So you go from 45 days to 180.
Yeah, that's a good deal. You said that.
And it's a huge deal because you mentioned, like, you don't want to have to settle for the wrong property.
Right.
But if you're doing a forward exchange, you may not have the option. I've been through 2 of those myself. They were very intense. You know, you might not find the right property for a while, and then you might get one that happens to be a dud when you do the inspection. You find all sorts of issues that you don't want to buy it anymore.
Right.
So that 45-day window is really intense and stressful, and sometimes may force your hand to buy something that you don't even really want to buy.
Right.
So
it's really what it is. It's really what it is. It's really, you're buying something that you really wouldn't buy, but for the fact that you've got this money, you got to do something with it. That's really, as a broker, that's what my customers end up doing in those circumstances.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. There's another way to do it. Obviously, when you're taking out short-term financing, it's going to cost you some money to do that.
Right.
But when you look at the opportunity that it gives you to really identify something that you really want to buy, that maybe you're able to pass on a property that's kind of so-so, and then you find one that's just right, and the identification period is technically endless, right? Because you can take as long as you need to find that property if you're buying first, that 180 day window starts once you've purchased the new home. So you have as
Right.
much time as you need to find the right investment.
Right.
And the thing to understand is that conventional lenders do not do reverse 1031 exchanges because of the unique nature of, I won't get too far into it, but the unique nature of how title has to be held when you've purchased first before the money is available from the sale. The property actually gets held in a completely separate LLC that's almost like a sort of a joint venture between you and the 1031 intermediary. And you technically don't own the property during that window of time, even though you do, and you have the rights to it to be assigned to you after you sell. It's really technicalities from a tax perspective. But traditional lenders don't want to do those loans because technically you as an individual don't own that property until
Right.
you have sold the property if you want to have a successful 1031 exchange. So it has to be, private lending that we do that allows for that, because conventional lenders will say they'll do 1031 exchanges, but when they say that, it's really only what we call a forward exchange, which is when you've sold first and then identify within 45 days and buy something new.
Got it. Well, look, you obviously are really knowledgeable about this business, and I think the most important thing is not to know the right product, but to know you have the right product and give you a phone call and get together with you. I know you plan to be a vendor at the LA Real Estate Association event in January in Culver City. Look forward. I saw you there last month. Look forward to seeing you there as a vendor. That's on the second Thursday every month, starting at 6:30. But if someone want to get together with you and game plan buying investment property or selling their residence with a bridge loan, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the best way is to give me a call. My direct line, 310-341-3106 and 310-341-3106. The type of lending we do is not, it's a little outside the box. So usually requires a conversation. It's not just hey, what's your rate kind of transaction, even though we do traditional straightforward purchase loans and refinances as well. But I think what really separates us is the bridge financing, which most lenders don't do, and the knowledge of, me being an investor myself, which is how I connected with the Real Estate Investors Association. I came a few times as an investor and then realized that it was a good spot as a vendor as well. So, my clients get to benefit from the experience, the good, bad, and ugly that I've been through on my own investment portfolio over the last 15 years. And we actually did a 7-part series about creating a side hustle in real estate that we have on YouTube. So, and I'll share that with you, Bill.
Yeah, do. We'll put that in the description down below.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
So we our clients get to benefit from our experience. My team is really well versed in these things, and we do it all ourselves. So it's speaking from personal experience and also seeing clients go through it over the last 20 years. So I think we can really add value in the space of bridge financing and investor financing. Even when you don't meet traditional criteria, we can still help in most cases.
Well, fantastic. Well, I look forward to continuing to work with you. And as well, if people are interested, the information will be down below in the chat box or the description for the social media. And Mark, I look forward to seeing you on January, I think it's 5th. The 12th, I think, is the next one in Culver City. And look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Likewise. Thank you, Bill. Take care.